Welcome back to another week of Overwatch University top upvoted questions of the week. Here we go. First one is, tell me how to play alongside your main. Pretend I'm your teammate and you have my full attention and infinite time to explain to me how to play with you as my teammate. I'll start. As a ball, the best way to play with me is to start shooting the enemy the moment you hear me engage. After I pile drive and use my shield, you'll have a precious 5-second window where all of the enemy's attention will be solely on me. Use that time to chuck whatever you have in the enemy's general direction. Conversely, when I disengage, you should too. Ball doesn't have a 100% uptime like Orisa. He works in quick bursts and it's best for you to lay low until I replenish my health and shield cooldown. Your turn. Tell others how to play with your main. I actually think this is a fantastic exercise for a lot of newer players and people of this subreddit and people watching and learning this video or consuming this video or who read this Reddit to say it out loud. What do you think complements your main? So you asked for me, good ball tips. For me, my mains right now are probably KarQ and Baptiste. I don't play Ana much anymore. Not right now in this current meta and landscape in Overwatch 2, of course. So I'll start with Baptiste. Best thing to do with me is to turn around and peel for me only if they have Tracer or Winston. If not, I'm usually just don't worry about me. Play in front of me. Don't be afraid to continue to move forward, especially if I call for it. And if I window, for the love of God, don't back up and try using it. Continue using that to take space because you know the enemies are going to be running away from the line of sight of the window. If you take 5 steps back when I window, you're losing space and a lot of times you don't even benefit too much from it. If I window very aggressively and it happens that you can shoot a couple things through it, great. But if not, don't put your attention towards it, especially if you're a tank player. You're losing space. I put the window for myself 99.9% of the time. It allows me to deal double damage. I have good burst. I can actually confirm a lot of kills and I get double healing through the window, right? And if you hit a direct heal with Baptiste, I heal 140 instead of 70. If I splash, it's 100. It's because it's only 50 for a splash heal. But if you're all clumped up and I hit a direct and it splashes on people, I heal a lot. So stay in front of my window. For KarQ, how to play alongside with me, I'm pretty aggressive. I would say if I call that I'm just going to go for some aggressive poke, especially during some downtime or neutrals, I just usually tell a teammate to be somewhat near me so that I can TP back and back out if I run into danger, because that's one of the KarQ's strengths. You can very aggressively keep poking and chipping away for A, pressure, and B, building your Kitsune Rush a little bit quicker with aggressive DPS and then getting a safe TP out. In a lot of cases, I would say for KarQ, it's better to play a bit more aggressive on the side because if you're in danger, you can TP out. But if you're just a consistent backline KarQ and you get pressured, where do you have to go? You end up having to TP frontline because there's no other angles being taken, and then you're probably going to die because you got your TP forced and you're in a bad spot afterwards. The other thing with KarQ is probably if I die, I'll usually call someone to back up and pick me up so I can TP to you. That'd be very appreciated. Next, why don't people talk in competitive matches? Hey everyone, I played a lot of Overwatch 1, a bit of Overwatch 2 on release. Now I'm coming back in the game. I'm low diamond on DPS, low plat on healer. What has happened to the communication? I feel like I'd be lucky if even one teammate talks during the game. Is this only happening to me? In higher elo, do people talk more? I'm genuinely confused on why there's such a lack of communication. Multiple factors. A lot of people have cut communication in quite a lot of matches. The ping system helped alleviate a lot of the issues with communicating vital calls. B, some people are saying that they're being falsely banned for certain words or certain things they type, so it's better to not say anything. Reason 3, verbal abuse. I mean, it's been many years. It's an online game. People are very mean and toxic, and the people who are genuinely just very verbally abusive are not being actively punished, at least to a noticeable degree, to the people who are victims of being verbally assaulted. So they feel like it's a lost cause, so they just leave voice chat. I don't blame you guys if that's the case. And number 4, a lot of people kind of just play this game casually to wind down. They don't really feel like, you know, talking to just random solo queue players, especially if you're solo queue. If you play with a group, usually the group is in Discord by themselves and they communicate amongst each other. So the best way to have a higher level communication is actually just a group and play with your friends and talk with your friends. Now it sucks for the people who are like queuing into your group and can't communicate with you, but that's just what people are doing these days. I'm not saying I prefer it. I really dislike it as well, as I'm always in voice chat. But even like I know people who can comm, they're just like dueling with one friend and they just like talk in Discord amongst each other and stay out of voice because they treat ranked as just like a little bit of practice. You know, everybody plays for different reasons, so I'm not here to judge, but that's why all those reasons combined have less people talking in competitive matches. Oh, and one more thing. You said you played a lot of Overwatch 1. Well, that's 6 6 players instead of 5, 1 extra person, there's a higher percentage chance that that person has a mic. Next, is the only good way to deal with the Venture as a Tracer to ignore her. As a Tracer player, I get how unforgiving of a character she is. One mistake, you're dead, that's fine and all, but I've learned how to play around a cast or a Tor, but I swear Venture is so much worse. Don't even see them before I'm one-shot comboed. If I miss like 4 bullets in a clip, they use an ability to get like 50 health back, and then I'm effed because everyone has already peeled. Is the only counterplay to swap, or is it to jump off the map repeatedly and hope they get distracted? I'm a plat Tracer and I'm just seeking advice. I would not say Venture is a Tracer counter. It's a skill matchup. You have to, one of the things is probably just a knowledge gap right now. Venture is a new hero. You need to learn to respect the damage and respect the space and distance that Venture commands. Venture's range is 15 meters for their weapon, and obviously if you're close enough to get drill dash, you're getting hit with like 100 damage. So you have to respect that ability and that cooldown. It's very easy to land if they stand close. If you see them use that cooldown, then you can probably engage without too much risk. And if you get shot by the primary fire a few times, keep strafing, keep blinking, you can usually get hit by 2 before you have to recall. But the drill dash is the biggest threat of you getting one shot. If you are pressuring the Venture and they burrow, that's actually job well done. It is very hard for a Tracer to 100 to 0 a Venture. That's not your job. You chip away at the Venture, and if the Venture is without burrow and is already low and busy with the other team fight, then sure, you can confirm the kill. But Tracer's job, you basically only like can kill isolated targets, and especially if they're low and squishy and don't have a gazillion things like, you know, drill dash and burrow and stuff that gives them a lot of extra shield HP. But if, you know, if they're like that, your job is to consistently pressure and pull attention towards you and try your best to escape. And that's your job. Force them to leave means you're reducing their impact, and then you can continue to pressure other people. Not the only way to deal with the Venture to ignore her, but it is actually pressure them enough that they're gone. And if they're not chaseable, then you ignore them afterwards. Why do you guys think Orisa is being seen as so OP right now? As I've been watching OWCS, I frankly don't see Orisa being very OP. It seems like DPS is OP. What do you think? What tank do you play? Seems to be just depend on the map and comp. What do you guys think? Is she actually OP or not? The moment Blizzard buffed the fall off range again on Orisa, I knew there was a matter of time before people picked up that she was very good once again. So in early, I think it was season 2 of Overwatch 2, Orisa's fall off damage, I think, is the biggest like thing that turns the hero from middle of the pack. I think Orisa's always been B tier, never F tier. And then the minute like they tweak the fall off range, it turns Orisa back to like S tier, in my opinion. So they did that in season 2, and then once they nerfed Fortify and they nerfed the fall off range, Orisa wasn't played for a while. And then I think it was season 8 or 9. I'll have to double check this later, or you guys can let me know in the comments. They changed the fall off range, so there's a greater distance before there's a fall off before the damage tapers down. So if you land even like a medium range spear, it's enough to confirm kills in a lot of cases. It's very, very strong. That, and combined with all the other things that Orisa does with 2 cooldowns that helps mitigate damage. Orisa's like a tank that can fill 2 niches, poke and brawl. Depending on the playstyle, you poke a lot for a little bit while you look for an opening, and then you have 2 cooldowns to mitigate a lot of damage, to get in their face and start brawling with the spin, and then you poke, 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 and look for opportunities. So Orisa kind of does 2, can fit in, slot in like 2 different archetypes of compositions, if you will. And they just rebuffed healing a little bit with Illari, so I've seen some Bap Illaris being pulled out. Pretty flexible with the backline. Bap Illari, Bap Kiriko, Bap Lucio if you're brawl, Bap Zen sometimes you're playing more slow, poke, methodical. And the other tanks, I believe, got, I wouldn't say so much nerfed, but with all the HP changes, Orisa's just there and stable and plays pretty well into the other tanks that were previously strong. So just why play anything else but Orisa? You said you were watching OWCS. I don't see Orisa being very OP. That's because tanks can blow up if they make one misstep in the highest levels. Great Sojourn players build their rail off the Orisa, and if there's no one to rail, because everyone's playing very safe, then the Orisa gets targeted. That's one thing that we noticed when we had Emong on Orisa, when we were playing in the OWCS before we got eliminated, is just like a playstyle adjustment. But like, you know, when you go top down from OWCS all the way down to, you know, your average gold or silver games, Orisa is just very, very hard to kill, and is one of those tanks that just doesn't blow up. A big complaint for tanks is like they stand there and they just disappear with Discord or whatever, and they blow up. But with Orisa, doesn't really happen. So okay, what is a niche or underrated counter to your main? As a Widow main, most heroes are able to counter her depending on how they play. You have the obvious ones like Sombra, Ball, Winston, another Widow, and Genji, but there are some more niche counters like Pharah and Venture, interesting, which will likely become a hard counter once people start to play them more. What about you? I fail to see how Venture can reach Widow if Widow is playing the spacing correct, so I can see where you're going with Pharah, because in theory you'd think Widow rolls Pharah, but actually if it's kind of hard to headshot if the Pharah's engaging very quickly and can two-shot you very quickly if you're not prepared for it. I can actually see Pharah as the underrated, wouldn't say counter, but a bit more skill matchup. Venture is a big question mark for me in your post, but I digress. Let's talk about a niche or underrated counter to my main. So for me, Baptiste. I think for the tanks, Diva's pretty annoying. Just Matrix just eats my heals, or sorry, eats my damage quite a bit, and it's just very annoying to deal with. Winston as well. Winston's one of the better dive heroes to annoy the crap out of me. If I put a lamp down, he can zap the lamp and me. DPSs, niche counter for DPSs against me. Maybe Hanzo. Because a lot of times I'm strafing on the ground. I'm not really trying to jump too much. So Hanzo can just spam down a choke and force me not to peek. And then for other supports, honestly, a flanking Moira can be very annoying with like a full damage orb and coalescence or something. I'm kind of screwed. Same thing with KarQ. One thing I can think of with KarQ is probably the flyers, like Echo and Pharah are very annoying to deal with as KarQ. Very hard to hit any headshots because their heads are bobbing up and down. Very hard to hit body shots because I'm shooting projectiles. So in a lot of cases against Pharah and Echo matchups, I have to just TP and run away and try to ignore and play different angles, and it's quite a bit of an adjustment against those heroes. What do you play when your second support is an instalock Mercy player, healbot Mercy player? I've been playing comp role queue as support, and in almost 90% of the games, I get a Mercy who doesn't shoot, doesn't blue beam at all, and is constantly attached to the tank. I usually play Ana, Kiri, or Moira, and it's getting increasingly more difficult to heal when I get one of these Mercies. I have to constantly baby my DPS. As Ana, I cannot sit in the backline since I have to sit on the payload while my DPS pushes up, or I have to follow them because they die instantly without heals. Telling them to fall back doesn't work because they ignore it, and my Mercy is in her own world. As a Kiri or Moira, I have to constantly heal my DPS, and I literally cannot do any damage or else they will die again. Mercy is in her own world. I have to play mystery heroes with support since I cannot figure out what works best with these types of Mercy players. Okay, I play in silver and gold lobbies. Okay, I'm not gonna say I don't believe you, but 90% of your games with the Mercy just attached to the tank probably isn't true, but that's just like a little bit of bias, right? A lot of Mercy players, if anything, it's less about attached to the tank and more about them duoed with somebody else and they're just attached to that one DPS player. That's what I hear from other people who play in your silver and gold lobbies, but I'm not here to argue that. So let's just take your example in a vacuum. What do you do if your Mercy is just AFK on the tank? Well, you know your tank is sustained, and I would say worry less about your DPS, heal them when it's convenient, and then just play a more DPS-oriented support. I would go for Illari, I would play Baptiste, I would play KarQ, go deep, kunai them very aggressively, TP out, heal if needed. In that moment with Baptiste, I would, hybrid heal a little bit, but mostly focus on DPS. Same with Illari, take an off angle. Maybe you keep a pylon somewhat close to the back and just focus on aggressively pressuring. You say, I can't leave my DPS because they'll just die. Well, they won't die if the DPS threat on the enemy team is dead because you're DPSing as well. Then they're pressured and they're on the back foot and they can't pressure your DPS and they'll be all right. I would say don't worry so much about like your other DPS. You can legitimately play your own game and do that, especially if your Mercy is just attached to the hip with the tank. And I know this won't happen every game. There's bound to be that Mercy who will back up and actually heal your other DPSs. How do I use Pharah's Barrage? Pharah is one of my favorite DPS characters to play. I feel like a very good sense of how she plays, how to use her abilities, and I frequently have games where I don't die, yada yada. But there's one thing I fail to grasp: her Barrage. I feel like no matter where I am, when I use it, I almost never fail to die immediately. I don't always have an Ana, and even if I want to call Nano, I can't because my voice chat never works. Sometimes I will go multiple fights holding Barrage because I feel like I'm better off just not dying. In a lot of cases, Pharah's Barrage is almost a death sentence. So in a lot of cases, it seems to me you're just trying to look for the big Barrage, or you're trying to kill 3 or 4. Sometimes just a single kill is worth it. At the end of the day, why do you use Overwatch Ultimate? It's to secure a winning team fight. If you're in a very side angle and you're not barraging in the open on Eichenwald's second, right in front of the castle doors where everybody can see you, maybe you're already on the castle, around the corner on the walls, and somebody peeks there, you shoot a rocket, and then you pop your barrage right there. You kill 1, 2 if you're lucky. And in a lot of cases, if you have a Mercy pocket, you can go for a bit more of aggressive play, with the idea that you're maybe trying to get 1 or 2 at most, and you get the res after, and then you're already going to be up 1. That's an advantage. Anything you can kind of do to press your advantage to win that team fight is good value in my opinion. Better value than saving it for multiple fights and not using by feeling like you can't die. So less greed, just look for it to confirm 1 is already good enough. And yeah, don't worry so much about dying. If you can generate more value than them, and it also depends on like the map. If you're on defense, like third point, checkpoint and you're coming out and you go 1-for-1 with a barrage and you die right after, that's worth it because you have a faster spawn and they have to run like 20 seconds longer because they're, you know, on attack and they have to take that long path. Say I can wall third. If you're on defense as a Pharah, you see somebody out of position, just barrage them, you die, they die. Think about the walk that attacking player has to go. They're outside, right? They got to walk that whole bridge, enter the castle, turn to the left, then turn to the right to fight pretty much at the end of the payload area. But you as a Pharah, you took that trade, you come back right out, and you're already fighting again before they're even halfway past that bridge. All right, why is Tracer one of the most picked heroes? I checked the DPS leaderboards and noticed that Tracer is extremely popular. When I pick Tracer in the metal rank matches I play, I end up fighting versus Pharah Mercy combos and Torp turrets. I cannot carry in these situations. I also find Tracer and other dive heroes like Winston useless in choke points where the whole enemy team is grouped up. What are your thoughts on this? Okay, Tracer is one of the most picked heroes, especially at the high levels, because obviously high rank players understand Tracer's role, and Tracer can fit in almost every single composition in Overwatch because of a very unique playstyle that's unique to Tracer. The fact that you can blink and recall, so the recall self-sustain, it's a free escape, the blinks are movement to draw attention. No other hero can do that as safely as Tracer. As a Sombra, if you're gonna dive, your one escape is the translocator, that's chaseable. If that fails, you're dead. For a Genji, it's the dash. If he doesn't get a dash reset or he doesn't have deflect and he can't round a corner, he's dead. Tracer can triple blink and recall, and you can cross more space than any of the other DPS heroes. So why am I bringing all this up? Because Tracer's job is broken down in two ways, and I'm going to read you what the top comment on this Reddit one posted, because it's a quote from Spylo, which is what this Reddit user is referencing, and Spylo is actually one of our coaches as well. He teaches a bunch of people, but he's our coach for our OWCS team. Spylo's video on the Kevster principle. Kevster is a top Tracer player in the Overwatch League, Overwatch CS. When people are isolated, as a Tracer, you have the high potential of securing a kill and a low potential for creating space and forcing attention. When people are grouped up, it becomes unlikely to secure a kill, but much more likely to pull resources and attention. When they're grouped like that, especially at a choke, you need to play as safe as possible while being a little mosquito that demands attention in an opposite angle from your team. Remember how I said this is unique to Tracer? You can take an opposite angle. 4 people turn around to help peel for the target that you weren't likely going to secure a kill on anyways because they weren't isolated. And you survive because you have recall and you blinked around and you timed your engagement very well with your team, like your tank, who was engaging at the same time. You should be able to create an environment where your team has significant resources or a space advantage that everybody should be able to work off of. TLDR, once again, in short, if people are isolated, out of position, you can solo kill somebody. Great, that's what people think Tracer does because a lot of people are in bad positions. But at the high levels, it's just being mosquito, timing your engagement. The timing and the intangibles where you're not securing a kill, but you're drawing threat and aggro. That's the intangibles that Tracer brings to the table. And then once you do that and time it with your team, then you can clean up and get all those like cool plays at the end where it looks like you get 4 or 5K, especially if you land a pulse bomb. You clean up afterwards by using and maximizing that space. All right, what character, after mastering them, has the most transferable skills? I'm a pretty mechanically dependent guy, and the characters I play are mostly hit scan or high movement characters like Cass, Genji, Widow, and BAP. Did you just say Cass and Widow as a movement character? Okay. I have a pretty good understanding of the game. Questionable. It's mechanics and what is happening around me in the game. And I know what problems I need to fix to rank up. I can actually play almost any character around the same skill level as my most played characters. I recently started to play Doomfist. Today I want to get better at him so I can just have another card to play quick play, custom games, or ranked. Today I came to the realization that I'm not doing too bad on Doom, and this got me to ask, why am I doing good on Doom? I believe it's because Doom shares a playstyle similar with Genji is my third most played. Who is my third most played? So now the question is in this title, what character has the most transferable skills? In a vacuum, let's just say if every hero was played at an equal skill, I'd say maybe Tracer. Tracer encompasses, like I mentioned before, so many skills in Overwatch. If I were to list a few, I mean, you can break these down in so many different ways, but you know, positioning, tracking, aiming, cooldown management, movement, timing, resource allocation, awareness, good map knowledge, know where your health packs are. You need all of those to play Tracer well, and if you can lock that down and become a very competent Tracer player, I'm confident that you can pick up Zarya because your track aiming is good, your bubble management and resource management is good because you played a lot of Tracer, and if you swap over to support and you play Kiriko, your tracking's great. So like you following your teammates healing with the Ofuda is great. Your timing, your cooldowns very well. You know when to swift step, you know when to Suzu because you have good ability cooldown management. So yeah, probably for Tracer would be the most transferable skills, because Tracer encompasses the most skills in the game, in my opinion. One of the highest skill ceiling heroes in the game, and is why Tracer is still a staple everywhere. Final question of the week. For all solo queue support, how do you rank up? To solo queue tank and DPS isn't that bad, but Jesus, solo queuing support is madness. I have a self-harming tank, or a tank that makes bad picks. Doomfist, what? Doomfist is a great pick. Or another support player that sucks, so I'm stuck healing everyone. This is rough, LOL. I lost 5 matches in a row. I tried everything, swapping heroes, going damage crazy mixed with healing. What's your formula? Solo queue support is adaptability. You said you either have a self-harming tank or another support that sucks. You're not adjusting to your teammates. So in a lot of cases, if I have like a team that is low resource, I'll go much more aggressive, and understanding your matchups, understanding what the enemy team is running, and understanding the highest priority. And I would say adaptability to your playstyle is the best for support players. If you're just a heal bot only support, you are at the mercy of your team because you're a very one-dimensional player. For me, I'm a KarQ player lately, or I'm a bat player as well. I can flex between being very aggressive because my team is low resource, requires less resources. I can take certain angles, depends on the map, depends on the matchup. I do what's needed in that specific match, and I play that as an isolated game with no relation to any future games. Like maybe there's like a general KarQ playstyle that somebody can notice a pattern on, but I do my best to adjust game by game. And that's something you have to learn, adjust and adapt. So going crazy with damage certainly works in a lot of cases. If you're a Moira player, you can completely flip your playstyle, go flank, TikTok, damage orb in the back into Coalescence if you recognize they have no hard stuns to kick you out of Coalescence and nothing to stop you. Something you just have to read as a player. So that comes with game knowledge, comes with game experience. You got this though. And that will be all for this week's Reddit questions. Appreciate you all for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.